My name is National Master Jesse Cohen, this is Summer School of Chess, and this is Master Training. Today I'm going to show you how to train your intuition. What's intuition? Intuition is that voice in your head that says do this or don't do that. When you're looking at a chessboard, it's where your eye is first drawn to. You look at a chessboard, you're like, oh, that's the right move. Ooh, that looks good. That's your intuition at work. How many moves do you think a world champion has to look at before they see the best move? You'd be surprised. Most of the time, they look at the correct move either on the first or second attempt, and this saves them a bunch of wasted time considering moves that aren't gonna cut it. Now, is this just some natural gift? We think not. We are gonna train our intuition today. I'm gonna show you some top-level Grandmaster training techniques. Let's get started. You're only gonna have 60 seconds per problem. We're gonna solve 8 problems. You're gonna write down your answers, and at the end, we're gonna check them. Today, you wanna focus the most on your gut, your feeling. Where do you feel is the right move? Remember that for all these problems, you're only gonna know if it's white to move or black to move. That's it. It could be a tactic. It could be a positional move. You don't know. Maybe you're supposed to win. Maybe you're supposed to draw. Who knows? All you know is it's your turn and you've got to figure out what the best move is. Black to move. White has just played queen to b1. How to proceed? And time's up. In this position, it was black to move, and I'm sure that you had no problem seeing the checkmate throw on h7. But did you try to play the move queen c2 trying to exploit white's weak back rank? If so, you're definitely thinking in the right way. However, you've got to be just as aware of the opponent's counter tactics. In this position, white has the phenomenal move knight f7 check, which would completely ruin everything, either after rook takes knight, queen b8 check leading to our back rank checkmate, or king to g8, queen takes queen when the knight stops our rook from giving back rank checkmate. In the position for our problem, the simple answer is pawn to g6. Black to move. White has just played king from b6 to c6. Begin. And time. In the following position, it's black to move, and unfortunately, we are lost because a king on the 6th and the pawn on the 5th always wins the game. But you might as well make it as tough on your opponent as possible. You get bonus points if you found king a7 gives you the most opportunities to trick and swindle your opponent. Here are some possibilities that white could fall into to ruin this winning game. Pawn b6 check. in light of king to a8, when now it's a draw either in light of pawn to b7 check, king to b8, and king to b6 stalemate, or in light of king to c7 stalemate, or in light of king to b5, king b7, when now the king is behind the pawn and it's just going to be a draw. In fact, the only way for white to win here is to play king to c7, king to a8, king to b6, king to b8, king to a6, followed by pushing this pawn and squeezing black off the back row. This is the only solution. Knight pawns can be extra tricky. Watch out for them. White to move. Begin. And time is up. It is white to move in what appears to be a completely losing position. We really want to play the move pawn equals queen right now, but after bishop f5 check, king to c7 and bishop takes queen, we're just losing, either after we take the bishop and we can't catch black's pawn, or we try to blockade the pawn and black just runs on over and makes us go away. We can also try ideas like maybe king to e6, trying to prevent bishop f5, but after king to f4, there really just is no stopping it. The real solution is an incredible, almost paradoxical solution. King to c8. Brilliant move. Pawn to b5, king to d7. Trying to play king c6, which will threaten both winning the pawn, which would end up in a draw because king and bishop is not enough to win, and also would threaten to make a queen. So black tries to play the move here, pawn to b4, king to d6. Now we're threatening to play the move pawn equals queen. The only way to stop it is bishop to f5, and boom, king to e5. And we finally obtain our draw, because either black plays bishop to c8 or something that maintains the bishop and keeps covering the queening square, allowing us to play king to d4, followed by king c4, gaining this pawn by force, or they are going to try and push this pawn, but in the end, it will just equal a draw when both of us make a queen anyway. Black to move in this position. Begin. And time is up. Black to move in this position, and you're probably eyeballing the white king side. The impression that the rook and the queen makes is quite good, and you might be tempted to go into the variation rook takes f2, king takes f2, and rook to c2 check. It does look pretty good in almost every variation except one, king to e1. Good move. And at this point, black doesn't have time to do things like queen takes g2, which would be a winning move if black had something to keep the back rank safe, because now it's unfortunately back rank checkmate. Black simply doesn't have enough time to actually launch this attack. In light of this and the threat on b6, black is probably best off to play rook on c2 back to c6. Hey everyone, this is our halftime break. If you're enjoying this video, please hit that like button, smash subscribe, ring the bell, and tell your friends. Thanks so much, and let's get back to our training. White to move and begin. And time. In this position, it's white to move. The correct answer is rook to f8 check. Black is not going to fall for rook takes f8, bishop to d5, pinning the queen to the king, but instead we'll play basically the only move that makes sense, king g7. And after rook takes rook, knight takes back, and queen takes c6 check, white can happily win a pawn, okay? Instead, in the actual game, white played the move rook back to f2. Do you see black's amazing shot here? Queen takes e4, and the legendary Korchnoi resigned in view of knight takes queen, rook d1 check, rook blocks on f1, and rook takes f1 mate. White to move. Begin. Time is up. Black has to be careful in this position. It looks like white is going to win this rook by force. We're threatening the rook at the moment. If the rook just goes somewhere, then white can make a queen, and then we're going to have to sacrifice the rook for it. So what should we do? Black has the extremely powerful move king e8, simply passing the move to white. White can wait if they want to with moves like pawn g3, but that's honestly the only move because now white has to make a choice. King takes rook, king f7, and white is in stalemate basically, if it wasn't for the fact that they still have some pawns they can push. And at this moment, white is going to have to sacrifice these pawns, allowing black to make a queen, for example, right? And begin. Time is up. One more problem. In this position, white has the phenomenal move knight takes d6 because of the inadequately defended bishop on b6. If black decides to recapture the knight, we can simply take back on b6, and this d-pawn is in a huge amount of trouble. Even if rook takes rook, rook takes back, rook to f6, pawn to c4, followed by pawn to c5. This is a huge, huge problem for black. White can definitely go on to win this position. Also, the way that the game was played was knight takes d6, rook takes b4, knight to f7, and there is unstoppable mating threats on h6 unless you want to play rook to h8, but this is not going to go well, I promise you. Black to move in the following position. Go. And that's the end of the test. This problem is mostly a test of, do you see white's potential tactic? In this position, black should be best off to play the move rook takes a2, intending sacrifices on b2. For example, if queen to b3, rook takes b2, queen takes b2, pawn to c5. The real test here is to see, will you play the move bishop takes d4, which would unfortunately lose the game to queen h6 check, whereupon either bishop to g7, queen takes g7 mate, or king to g8, queen to h8 check, bishop takes, and rook takes check mate. All right, that brings us to the end of our intuition test. I hope that you enjoyed this today. It's a bit of something different. It's almost like one of those workout videos meets chess. It's a live training session, okay? Something that you can pace along to. It's not as exciting, but it's very applicable. So please let me know in the comments if you like it and if you want to see more of it, okay? So thank you so much for joining me. Oh, by the way, if you scored about 1, 2, 3 points, I want you to know that that is perfectly normal. However, if you scored more like 5, 6 points or above, then you actually might need to do this exercise giving yourself less time, maybe only 30 seconds on the clock, okay? You can adjust the amount of time you give yourself up to 2 minutes based on kind of how you're doing. But again, do not be discouraged if you only got a couple of these right. Remember, this is more of intuition training as opposed to deep analysis. Again, I am National Master Jesse Cohen. This is Summit School of Chess. Thank you for going on this journey with me, and I will see you next time.